families, welcome back once again. I hope you are well. I hope your day is good. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If this is your first time here, my name is Mamri and you are very welcome. This video is all about General Abdourahmane Tiani, the president of Niger, interview that he gave 2 days ago. I'll look for the date and put it on the screen. Many of you have been asking me to work on it. I've been working on it for days now. I have 2 hours for you, so get yourself comfortable, tea, coffee, water, wine, whatever, and watch it on your telly because it will break your phone and I don't want it to break. Anyway, he started with a tour. He did a tour in October and November. I share some of them on this channel. He talk about his experience, what he experienced on the road. Sometimes he walk, and we know when they travel, many a times they travel by road. He intentionally, according to him, travel by road. So he will experience what the ordinary citizens are experiencing. And thank to God, they didn't come into any harm. He talked about security as usual and general mobilization, and also the terrorists that has claimed that they are the people who has attacked the 101 airport. How they were paid to say that a lot in these 2 hours interview. Families, I will leave you here for now. Please listen to the president of Niger. I'll be back.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. We are at the Presidential Palace where we have the honor of conducting an exclusive interview with the President of the Republic about the life of the nation. With the head of state, we will address the major current issues, particularly those relating to defense and security, to general mobilization, governance and justice, and our confederation, AES, and especially the relations between Niger and several countries on the African continent. Mr. President, good evening. And thank you for giving us your valuable time. And above all, thank you for giving us the opportunity to discuss the concerns of the people of Niger with you. But before we get to the topics I just mentioned, allow me, Mr. President, to say a word about your tour inside the country that you undertook in October and November, which has just ended. What are your observations, and more specifically and briefly, what feelings do you have? What is the current state of our country? What should we take away from the tour? Do you feel that you have accomplished your mission with regard to the objectives you set for yourself? And then what lessons have you learned from this tour in order to better address the concerns of the Nigerian people who welcomed you by the thousands in a historic show of support? This has truly never been seen before in the history of Niger, with such exceptional mobilization and enthusiasm. Mr. President, to return to the topics we announced, let's start with the primary concern of Nigerians, namely defense and security. Question, Mr. President, we have undoubtedly experienced a certain calm before the events that occurred at Niamey Airport on the night of January 28th to 29th, 2026. Is this an isolated act, or does it signal a certain resurgence of terrorism that will target our main strategic sites, including Niamey? Mr. President, what exactly happened and what lessons should we draw from it?
Aujabillah emina shaitanir azim bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First, let us give all thanks and praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has once again graciously allowed us to come together here today so that we may discuss the situation and the life of the nation. Let us use this blessing to congratulate the brave men and women serving in our defense and security forces, to congratulate the people who are resilient. For all our martyrs, let us pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant them His mercy. For our wounded, may He grant them a swift recovery. For us, we ask that you bless us and grant us the inner strength and the unwavering courage that we need to continue this difficult fight, a fight in which we are certain there is only one outcome for us, and that is victory, inshallah. To return to the specific tour you mentioned earlier in our conversation, it is important to note that starting from the 4th of October in the year 2025, we officially initiated a comprehensive two-phase tour across various regions within our country, marking a significant milestone for our entire organization. The primary and most essential objective of this comprehensive tour is to closely observe and evaluate the profound level of personal commitment and the deep sense of civic awareness that exists among all Nigerians today regarding the various complex challenges and significant obstacles we are currently facing as a nation. This tour began in the region of Tillaberi, if you recall, where we were from the 4th to the 5th, the 4th in Tillaberi city itself, then on the 5th in Terra. This extensive tour has provided us with a valuable opportunity in this initial phase, as I previously mentioned, to establish direct and meaningful contact with the local Nigerians, to thoroughly validate and confirm the various concerns they hold. Since we already possess a deep understanding of what the main concerns of all Nigerians are, and to finally see them physically and firsthand in their own communities. What the problems are. Primary purpose of my visit is to establish direct contact, as I said, with the resilient people of Niger, in order to thoroughly understand and validate their concerns. Since we are all well aware and already know what the main concerns of all Nigerians are, I want to see them physically and in person. I am here to witness firsthand what the complex challenges and difficulties are that are currently confronting the entire Nigerian people, particularly those living in the region of Tillaberi, which was the first phase. We held a series of comprehensive and strategic meetings with the various branches of our national defense and internal security forces to deliver a sincere message of heartfelt congratulations for their service, but also a crucial message of heightened awareness and vigilance, because we are fully cognizant of the nature of the adversaries we are currently dealing with, and we remain deeply aware of the challenges ahead. Of the capabilities of those who are facing us to use every possible method, even the most vile and contemptible, to bring us under their control. Consequently, it became absolutely essential to implement a comprehensive program to raise awareness among the various branches of the defense and security forces. This initiative was designed to ensure they were fully prepared and equipped to face all types of emerging threats that might arise in the region. It was crucial for them to look beyond the conventional threats they are typically used to dealing with, specifically moving past the standard scenarios of direct, high-intensity physical confrontation with groups of foreign mercenaries who often operate in the area. Furthermore, we participated in an interview with La Tribune de Tillaberi, where we could clearly outline the 4 fundamental pillars that constitute our strategic vision. For the future of our country, we have also, through a series of extensive community meetings, carefully gathered and officially recorded the many deep-seated concerns and vital perspectives held by the diverse people living in the region of Tillaberi. We carefully developed a comprehensive roadmap which we thoroughly reviewed and finalized before making our way forward to the city of Terra. The next day was the 5th of October. Upon finally arriving in the city of Terra, it is normally just a brief 2-hour journey. However, this time it took us the entire day to get there. It was an incredibly long, full day, not only because of the warm and elaborate welcome we received in Terra, but also due to the difficult path. Just like in Tillaberi, we were given a warm reception, and out of a sense of moral duty, we walked to greet everyone. The people had turned out in large numbers to welcome us, but it was also due to the condition of the road. Fari Terra. I wouldn't even call it a road, maybe more like the Fari Terra track. In Terra as well, we held a meeting to address the defense and security forces. We expressed our heartfelt congratulations to them for the immense sacrifices they have consistently made, for the unwavering and selfless dedication with which they served their beloved country and its citizens. And we also sincerely encouraged and highly commended them for their service. With a very special and heartfelt prayer for our brave martyrs and for all of their grieving families who make up the great Nigerian family. In addition to this, we also held another important meeting in the town of Terra. We carefully identified several specific concerns, to which we made sure to provide prompt and comprehensive responses to each one. The full scope of what is currently happening is now clearly visible to everyone right here on the ground. I don't need to go over that again. Afterwards, you will go. We finally returned to the city of Niamey around 10 p.m. in the evening to begin making the necessary preparations for the upcoming second phase of our extensive tour, which will take us across all 8 of our diverse regions. Thus, on the 8th day of November, early in the morning, we finally set out for our destination. Dosso, where we traveled along the entire route. We were warmly welcomed by huge, enthusiastic crowds everywhere we passed along the way, since our ultimate goal was to travel all the way to Gaia. On our journey, we made sure to pass through the large camp at Gali, where we also held a very productive and important meeting with the local defense and security forces. Before continuing our long trek onto Gaia, once again, we took a moment to held a discussion with the local population, who turned out in large numbers to welcome us and then to listen to us. I won't go over the history of the trips through the cities, because after Dosso, it was Tawa. You actually saw what you saw along the route between Dosso and Tawa, and the rally in Tawa. The meeting with the local populations, the defense and security forces 2 nights before continuing on to Agdes. There as well, and always by road, it should be noted, and that's what makes the difference in Agdes. From Agdes we went to Arlit, then from Arlit to Azmaka, back to Arlit, and spent the night there. To continue the next day, it was about 670 kilometers to Zender. We reached Zender around 1:30 in the morning. Tawa, it was around midnight. At exactly 1:30 in the morning, we finally arrived at our destination after traveling along the long and dusty route that leads all the way from Arlit to Gades. In the regions of Darbisenet, Tanut, and Zender, at approximately 1:30 in the morning, there were absolutely massive crowds of local people gathered together in the midnight hours. We also worked in close coordination with the defense and security forces assigned to Zone Number 3 right there in Zender. This was followed immediately by a very large meeting with the general population at the Zender Stadium, just as they say in the local reports. Afterwards, we continued on to Marathi. In Marathi as well, the welcome we received throughout our journey was that of a grand occasion. All the way to Marathi town, where we arrived around 10 p.m., an enormous crowd. On the day of our arrival and the following Monday, we also held a meeting with the defense and security forces. We began our journey at the strategic command post of Zone 6 in Maradi, which was followed by an extensive visit to Giratawa, a vital hydro-agricultural development site. As you are well aware, this highlights the immense importance we place on achieving food self-sufficiency for our nation. From Giratawa, we returned to the Grand Maradi Arena, which was absolutely packed to capacity with people, where we found again, it is estimated that there were perhaps approximately 10,000 people or even fewer. But if we had found that same number of donkeys, the arena, what was situated outside, was 3 times that specific number of individuals, which also clearly shows the extraordinary level of social and logistical mobilization we observed. After leaving Maradi, we headed toward the historic city of Zinder to continue our journey on to the final destination of Difa. There as well, all along the entire travel route, passing through Maradi, Zinder, Gure, and Gure. Passing through Gudumaria, where we spent the night, Gudumaria, Mene, Difa, it was the same level of mobilization that we observed. The people of Niger came out and sent us a message. The people of Niger are standing tall. The people of Niger are more determined than ever to continue the fight for dignity, the fight for sovereignty. More than just ourselves, we witnessed a nation of people who were fully prepared for battle, a remarkably resilient and courageous people. And for these individuals, the incredible strength and resilience they have demonstrated so far is merely a small sign of what they are truly capable of achieving in the future. Based on every single thing we observed during our time there, we carefully took note of the situation and drew our final firm conclusions. These profound conclusions are exactly those I just mentioned: a resilient, determined, and truly dignified people, standing tall and ready for the long struggle ahead. It is only through this persistent struggle that true freedom is won, and the courageous people of Niger have clearly understood this fundamental truth. And they know that it is struggle that brings liberation. Since the year 1958, we have consistently implemented various strategies that have always kept us under a state of domination. This control has been present across all sectors, whether it be political, strategic, defense-related, food-related, or even our broader economic systems. The people of Niger have understood that another path is possible, and this path is the one we are proposing to all Nigerians. And we have found a people who have accepted this proposal and who are determined to see it through to the end. As I have previously mentioned, we have truly taken all of your concerns to heart and have worked very diligently to provide comprehensive answers to each of them. As for in the Tillaberi region, things are already underway. As for the other various regions, especially regarding the major concerns of the Dosso region, they include the creation, as you may well recall, of the implementation of this major refinery project, the large-scale petrochemical complex, the Dosso dry port facility, and the International Dosso Airport. These projects represent a significant investment in the infrastructure and the future economic development of the entire surrounding area. These are ambitious and large-scale undertakings that some people may say are completely unattainable or impossible to ever achieve. But we are fully and deeply confident, God willing, that every single one of these projects will be successfully brought to full completion. But we will take all the necessary time required, so that when these projects are fully finalized and completed, the national interest and the interest of the Nigerian people is never overlooked or disregarded. That is what drives us to take all this time, as I said in Dosso, to accomplish what we are going to accomplish. In Tawa, the people share very similar concerns and anxieties, specifically regarding the critical issue of finding stable employment. But in addition to employment, there is also the vital health sector, where they have expressed a strong desire for the construction of a major referral hospital, much like the well-known facility located in Maradi. And right there in Niamey, we saw the situation with our own eyes. We certainly didn't need anyone else to tell us about it. The entire Sarnawa-Tawa road was completely and utterly deteriorated beyond recognition. This was also a concern for the people. Then there are the hydro-agricultural developments which create jobs and ensure food self-sufficiency. On these various points, some of these projects have already started, while others are still currently under study. This is because, as I said, we do not want to make the same mistakes again. It is exactly the same concern that we previously found in Agdes, with the issues of employment and security always being incredibly important. This actually applies to all of the other regions as well, even if I haven't specifically mentioned them by name yet. And we must also consider youth employment and the state of infrastructure, especially since we saw the road ourselves. The stretch from Tabalak Meroa to Balak is 85 kilometers long, but it currently takes half a day to travel. We also saw the road at Balak heading towards Tamaya, which remains a major concern for everyone involved. There as well, it was a real ordeal. At times, we were forced to get out, to walk for hundreds of meters, if not kilometers, just to avoid exposing myself to the wrath of those watching and waiting for the slightest mistake. So at times we walked hundreds of meters, not only to return the courtesy to the people who had been waiting for us, some since 6 a.m., others since 7 or 8 a.m., just to see us pass by, maybe around noon, 1 p.m., 2 p.m., or even later. In Agadez, we also noted the same concerns, and the people of the Agadez region should know that everything we have identified, God willing, will be accomplished. It's the same for Arlit in Samaka or on the Agadez-Arlit road, and completely and utterly non-existent, to put it very mildly indeed. Then there is the long and arduous road currently under construction, stretching through Arlit and Asamaka, all the way to the most remote and isolated border outpost commonly referred to as Dune. We made it a specific priority to visit all of these strategic positions, to personally address the brave defense and national security forces who are doing a truly exceptional and commendable job. These are the individuals who are selflessly sacrificing themselves for the sake of their country. We are here to directly see and understand the deep-seated concerns and needs of our fellow citizens. Upon arriving in the town of Asamaka, we unfortunately discovered a truly dire and terrible situation unfolding there. The students of the Asamaka Primary School provide us with a poignant and illustrative example of the challenges faced. For their final certificate exam, these young learners must embark on a long journey across the Azumit region, traveling a staggering distance of 374 kilometers just to reach Ingale and sit for their final exam. Once they successfully obtain their diploma, they are unfortunately forced to stop their schooling entirely, simply because there is no middle school or further academic opportunities available in the village of Asamaka. There were absolutely no qualified tutors or educational instructors in Ingres, whereas the town of Arlit, which is situated at a distance of slightly less than 200 kilometers away from the area, or approximately 120 kilometers if traveling by the well-maintained paved road infrastructure, could have easily allowed these young Nigerians to sit for their critical examinations in a safe and secure environment, without the constant risk of getting lost in the vast and dangerous desert terrain? Even worse, to our surprise, we found 6 entirely unused classrooms that could have easily served as a fully functional middle school, situated to serve as a brand new middle school for those dedicated local students who had successfully passed their primary school leaving certificate examinations. During our meeting with the Minister of Education, we shared these concerns with her and discussed the situation in detail. When we returned to Zender, the decree was issued, the CIG was created, and the director appointed. And the entire administrative staff was designated. Just to give you an idea of the absurdities you can only imagine if you see them firsthand. It is actually precisely the kind of serious concern that could have had an immediate and effective solution. Furthermore, very similar cases were clearly identified in every single one of the other regions that we visited during our trip. For those to which we could provide immediate solutions, like the CEG in Asamaka, immediate responses were given. Regarding these critical concerns, which necessitate a truly exhaustive and in-depth analysis, an evaluation that must be conducted with the utmost care. The final decision that will eventually be made is one of such immense importance that it leaves absolutely no room for even the slightest margin of error. These analyses are being conducted, and these decisions will be made, as I said, in the general interest of the Nigerian people. We are reassured by what we have seen. We are leaving. Having been deeply reassured and heartened by this extensive tour, we are now leaving feeling greatly comforted by the profound way the people have embraced this difficult struggle. This experience further convinces us, beyond any shadow of a doubt, that we are indeed traveling upon the right path toward our goals, and God willing, we shall surely find a way to succeed together in our shared mission. We will prevail despite the savage, relentless, and petty adversity that we continue to face every single day on this long journey. This is exactly what I take away from this truly great and memorable tour, during which we traveled a total of 4,083 long kilometers across the country. We traveled both by motorized vehicle and on foot, just as I have previously mentioned in our discussion. And through this process, we have also been able to reach a definitive and clear conclusion. We addressed the growing field of pessimistic doomsayers, who continue to spread the narrative everywhere, that the nation of Niger should be classified as a dangerous red country, that Niger is a country in flames and bloodshed. We traveled a total of 4,083 long kilometers all the way from the far east to the distant west of our vast country, and from the deep south to the far north of our great nation. Remarkably, this was achieved without a single incident ever being recorded during the entire journey. This serves as powerful evidence that the people are remaining resilient and standing strong, and that the defense and security forces are fully prepared and ready. They were already ready because they had realized that the struggle is their responsibility, not that of a few foreign forces. These are the conclusions we draw from this tour.
Thank you so much, families, for listening up to this stage. When the attack happened, our president came and spoke, and that was the video I shared before, how some people were reacting that he has no evidence, and as if our president, General Abdourahmane Tiani, a president and a military that has worked in a military for 40 years plus, doesn't know what he's talking about. Yes, disrespectful, but attentionally share that video so we'll also know what others are thinking. These young men are thinking. Anyway, he talked into details about what he knows or what they knows, and also how after 70 something hours, some of the terrorist groups has claimed that they are the one who did it, when we all know, or they know, that they are not the people who did it. Because of the way the attack happened, they know it is not ordinary terrorists that did. Families, I'll be back. Thank you for your time.
To make the transition regarding your question about the security situation, I believe that what I just said gives you an idea. We are not naive. We know that savage adversity stands before us. The attack on the airport. The attack on Abdourahmane International Airport and Airbase 101 is not outside of a process orchestrated by neo-colonial forces, particularly the French forces, through all their branches, the forces. The neo-colonialist influence and presence, particularly that of the French military forces through all their various specialized branches, including the elite special forces, the strategic intelligence services, and the broader conventional armed forces. In general, this entire operation remains under the direct political leadership of President Emmanuel Macron towards our country. This is no secret to anyone. Our arrival has created a state and situation of ongoing open hostility currently between President Macron and our team. And most unfortunately and regrettably, he has successfully maneuvered to pull several European countries into this profound and deep-seated hatred. All of this naturally leads us to deeply question the very nature of our ongoing relations with them. One must wonder, are they completely blind to the reality? Are they stone deaf to the truth? Have they truly not seen everything that France has accomplished since the year 1850 for some, through the period of 1880 to 1898 and continuing all the way up to the present day?
The present day.
For others, on our territories? This recent violent attack on the international airport is clearly part of a deeply pathological and systematic agenda aimed at the total destabilization of the entire region. President Emmanuel Macron has officially made a firm commitment before his departure that he would exert every possible effort to completely destabilize and topple the Nigerian regime that had the courage to make its own sovereign choices. It is the noble path of true independence, the dedicated path of national sovereignty, the essential path of transparent and good governance, and the vital path of sustainable self-sufficiency for our future. Through the strategic development of robust production bases designed to ensure our long-term economic sovereignty, we have embarked upon the courageous and transformative path of comprehensive social reforms that we have consistently championed for our people. We were never actually supposed to succeed in our mission, and that is precisely the relentless political fight that Emmanuel Macron and his various henchmen are currently waging against us. Unfortunately, they are doing this with the active support of certain heads of state from our own sub-region and from many other places elsewhere in the world. This coordinated opposition seeks to undermine every single step we take toward our ultimate goals. Regarding the recent attack on the airport, our intelligence teams have been closely and continuously monitoring all of the preparations ever since the month of April in the year 2025. From April 26th to April 28th, we were closely monitoring the situation. And I mentioned it before, but unfortunately, some Nigerians simply do not pay enough attention to what we say here when we try to raise the alarm for everyone's safety. We are taking these actions because we know deep down that it is only by working together that we can truly hope to win this fight. Starting from April 26th and continuing through to the 28th, working through the various French services and agencies, and when I specifically say the services, I am referring to the DGSE, that is. The elite special forces had completely flooded the mercenaries stationed on the right bank of the Gurma River. Within the entire Liptako-Gurma region, they provided them with heavy weapons, vast financial resources, and all kinds of advanced military equipment, specifically intended to destabilize our nation and its security. It's not just Niger. Mali was also in their sights. Burkina Faso was also in their sights. If you followed, it was in the euphoria of receiving these weapons and resources. It was with a massive influx of resources, including armored vehicles, extensive financial support, and all kinds of specialized tactical equipment, that the ill-fated attempted incursion at Namaro took place. You surely remember the devastating and swift punishment those hostile elements received for their actions. Following the punishment we inflicted on them, and especially at the initiative, because, as I said, it was the euphoria from receiving this equipment provided by France that pushed those mercenaries to take such risks. They were reprimanded. Some were relieved of their command because they had been given strict instructions. The signal, it was up to the French to give the signal for the attack. So we carefully monitored things day by day until the 15th of July arrived, and we finished the task. These coordinated series of attacks were originally supposed to take place immediately after the strike on the strategic Niamey International Airport. It is the severe punishment reserved for the mercenaries, and the stern lesson delivered to their sponsors finally put a stop to this momentum. This assault had been planned. As you saw, 2 days later, they attempted an incursion in Maklondi. There as well, because the goal of the mercenaries and their sponsors, especially their sponsors, was to destroy everything we have in terms of air capability. That was their objective. And from there, it would have been a clear path for them, because the defense and security forces would no longer have any air assets to provide fire support or intelligence to the defense and security forces deployed throughout our territory, or to those who were in operation at the time of the attack. The meticulous planning of multiple successive attacks following the initial strike that occurred between January 28th and 29th in the year 2026 was strategically carried out by the elite units of the French Special Forces in close coordination with their national intelligence services. But we know, of course, that all of this was ultimately done with the full blessing and explicit authorization of their highest-ranking officials. Their primary mentor, Emmanuel Macron, and those various African lackeys I previously mentioned, who hail from across West Africa. So that is essentially a detailed account of exactly what happened during the course of the attack, which took place from January 28th to January 29th in the year 2026. That, in short, is the timeline set aside for Niger. And when you say S, the prelude to other attacks, we never had any illusions, because we know that it is two opposing wills confronting each other. And we are convinced, God willing, it is clear that the unwavering will to triumph and the absolute will to victory is firmly on the side of Niger, right on this side here. This is the powerful confederation of Sahel states. We cannot, even for demagoguery, tell the people of Niger that there will be no attack. I know what I know. I know the orders that Emmanuel Macron has given. I know the deployment that has taken place. I know the investment that has been made. I am fully aware of the details of the submission. And this is to say nothing of the absolute servility of certain lackeys across West Africa who are so eager to faithfully execute the will of their master. Because for people like them, the concept of God simply does not exist. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is here, and He is the judge. And we are firmly and deeply convinced within our hearts that we will confront these challenges and emerge completely triumphant, fueled by the unwavering and steadfast determination that has always defined our character, while resolutely resisting every single attempt that seeks to undermine our progress. And also by proactively anticipating future threats, utilizing every single resource currently at our disposal to defend against any hostile organization whose primary objective is to disturb the peace of the Nigerian people. That is what I can say about the attack. In short, let the people of Niger be assured that this was a sponsored attack, an attack that did not achieve its objective. We saw it. For the first time, the terrorists came out. It took them 12 hours to make a claim of responsibility. The terrorists, even better. For the first time, they carried out a maneuver. That's what makes us laugh. With a template, D-Day +1, D-Day +2, 8:30 p.m. We were behind the international airport, 8:40 p.m. Go ahead, see for yourself. There are 5 main points with about 30 subpoints. Since when do terrorists bother with points and subpoints? They even went so far as to add a note. Note, we did not come for the uranium, but who told them that the uranium is at the airbase? This just goes to show you that Nigerians are learning to read between the lines and to understand. But as for us, we certainly have the means to read between the lines, and beyond that, we also have experience. After all, I have served 41 years in the military for my country. Even if it's a lesson I learn every month, multiply 12 by 41, and you'll get the number of lessons and lessons. These are the essential military lessons I've learned, just to tell you that we truly know what we're doing now and exactly what we will do in the future. We will stand firm, inshallah, against any attempts.
Mr. President, in the same vein, and more generally, first of all, what is your assessment of the situation, Secretary of the country, both in terms of perception and in terms of reality? Next, as of today, what is the status of the strengthening of our defense and security forces in terms of personnel, equipment acquisition, training, and autonomous operational capacity in the field? Finally, what are the prospects to consider, Mr. President?
Regarding the security situation within our nation today, we do not judge or make decisions based on perception. We are deeply pragmatic individuals. We place our firm reliance upon the objective facts, and I have just carefully detailed and presented those specific facts for you. The swift and decisive response to the recent attempted military incursion at Air Base 101 and at Biori Hamani International Airport in Niamey serves as clear and further proof of this ongoing situation. This serves as a powerful testament to the professionalism and dedication of our national defense and security forces, who, in a remarkably short period of less than 20 minutes, I repeat it again, regained control and in less than 20 minutes engaged the mercenaries and neutralized them in depth. That is what happened. And that is what leads to this narrative of an hour and a half of fighting, 2.5 hours of fighting. Of course, it's an hour and a half of fighting, or even 2.5 hours of fighting. But under what circumstances? This too needs to be said, because many people are unaware of it. When you are under attack, there is a reaction. This reaction is carried out by a designated unit. We design, we plan, and we execute. That is the difference. The defense and security forces do not act haphazardly. Everything is planned. When I tell you even down to the attrition rate, when I talk about attrition rate, I mean the loss of human life when preparing an operation. We determine it. Through very precise calculations, we determine the attrition rate based on the threat, the means the threat uses, and the threat's doctrine. We calculate the attrition rates. So, the attack is further proof of the level of professionalism of our defense and security forces and of their level of training. Of our defense and security forces, of their level of responsiveness or reaction in military terms, of our defense and security forces, and of the appropriate resources available to our defense and security forces. All the resources and professionalism that enabled them not only to regain control by fully restoring Base 101 and the Biori International Airport in Niamey, but also to track and pursue the enemy, destroying them in depth. Ask the people who live 40, 50, even 100 kilometers around Niamey what they saw, what they witnessed. It was a battle that continued until the next day. So this is the reason why many people still think it was a fight that lasted for just 2 hours, right inside the airport terminal. We are convinced, and I hope that Nigerians are convinced as well, of the growing strength of our defense and security forces and the resources they have at their disposal. Our defense and security forces, As I said, the attack was supposed to be followed by a series of other attacks, but this was not carried out because of what the enemy observed, because of what the sponsor or sponsors observed. You are requesting a total of 10 motorcycles, in addition to a specialized vehicle from the EIGS and 20 more motorcycles from the Boko Haram movement, including groups like Sonal and ISWAP. These organizations have now firmly settled within the border regions of Sokoto, Katsina, Kebbi, and the Zamfara area, a dangerous development that we had specifically and previously warned about in our earlier security reports. The Nigerian authorities, these are the specific groups that were clearly identified by the various countries I mentioned earlier. Because if you choose to contribute financially to them, for us, you are participating knowingly in their actions. And you really can't take any offense when we eventually come out and publicly name you. The attack cost the sponsors a significant amount of money. 300 million, 200 million for preparations, 100 million to claim responsibility. Because if you notice, and that's what I said, always keep an eye on these people. You'll understand when you get hit by a stone, where that stone came from. To claim responsibility, no group was willing to do so. Unlike usual, it was nearly 72 hours later that the IGS claimed responsibility. But we know how to go beyond the line because we have the means to go beyond the line. For him to claim responsibility, he received 100 million CFA francs in cash. It was at that time that he went to claim responsibility. And even that claim, at FORCEP, it was motivated by my intervention on January 29, 2026, at Airbase 101. It was essential to flatly deny an undeniable and obvious fact, and to find a suitable scapegoat to blame, even if it came at the staggering cost of hundreds of millions. And that scapegoat was the EIGS. I firmly stand by what I have said. I absolutely insist on this point, and the people of Niger must be deeply convinced of it. It is important to remember that each and every single time we speak out to say something, we don't do it simply on a sudden, impulsive whim. We don't do it out of a sense of hatred, even if hatred happens to be the unfortunate consequence of us speaking out or of publicly denouncing what we see. We say it because we have substantial and verifiable evidence that what we are saying can be fully verified. We have the official documentation and records, we have the specific people who were directly involved, and we have the extensive financial and logistical resources that were made available to these mercenaries. They deserve no other label than that of mercenaries, and their sponsors don't deserve any better. No other label than sponsors of terrorism. And it was this attack that was carried out during the night of January 28th to 29th, 2026 at Airbase 101, then at Gyori Hamani International Airport, where they also strafed planes they found on the tarmac. We had mentioned 3 planes. I saw people rushing to talk about the Ivorian airline. In actual fact, the 3rd plane involved was a Chadian military aircraft that had specifically evacuated a deceased fellow compatriot and subsequently brought back her body to her homeland. Unfortunately, it was that plane that was riddled with bullets, just like the 2 Askai planes. It wasn't even the Air Côte d'Ivoire plane. And we never mentioned Air Côte d'Ivoire, which was hit by stray bullets. Therefore, I am standing here today to officially confirm that this strategic attack launched against both the military airbase and the busy international airport was a highly sophisticated and carefully coordinated action carried out by multiple groups. Regarding the specific sponsors I mentioned earlier, I firmly stand by my statement because we have identified the actual perpetrators, and it is certainly not just one single person. We have the necessary means, and we have documented the prior meetings that took place with the specific individuals I named. The attack was bravely repelled by our forces, of course, and as I said before, the flaw is unfortunately inherent in any complex system. Whether they are Nigerians or from other countries, this specific vulnerability is what allowed this tragic attack to take place. But I firmly believe that the swift and highly appropriate response also served to deeply reassure every single citizen of Niger that the defense and security forces are fully prepared and ready to rise to meet any challenge that may come their way. Any challenge. The attacks will not stop. We have the latest directive that Emmanuel Macron gave. I am keeping it for the services that are working tirelessly to address it. This attack was supposed to be the trigger, just like in Mali, following the September 2024 attack on Bamako Airport. Following the immediate aftermath of this initial assault, and after experiencing a somewhat more extended period of delay, they had also begun to formulate a series of complex and coordinated plans in January of 2025. These were intended to be simultaneous attacks, which the group continued to meticulously refine and adjust over several months in order to ensure they were fully prepared to carry them out under the cover of darkness on the night of July 1st. In 2025, this simultaneous attack carried out in Mali, if you remember, it was the same principle that was adopted here. The attack on Diori Hamani International Airport was supposed to be followed if it had succeeded by this other attack, which was also planned by the French forces and the French Special Services. And when I say French Special Services, you know who I'm talking about. It's the DGSE and their agents who are in Benin and also in Côte d'Ivoire. So it turns out that they had actually planned a total of 7 simultaneous attacks. These coordinated simultaneous attacks were originally supposed to target the specific locations of Tamu, Sai, Torodi, Tera, and Bankilari. Furthermore, they also intended to strike at Walam, Bani Bangu, and Airu as well. Furthermore, regarding our national security, the overall level and the specialized training of our defense and security forces, as well as the specific degree of their responsiveness or rapid reaction capabilities. In strictly military terms, regarding the overall capabilities of our national defense and security forces, we must consider all the appropriate means currently available to our dedicated defense and security forces. This includes all the strategic resources and the high level of professionalism that have consistently enabled them to perform their duties effectively. Not only to regain control by fully restoring Base 101 and the Diori Hamani International Airport in Niamey, but also to track, pursue, and destroy the enemy deep within their ranks. Ask the people who live 40, 50, or even 100 kilometers around Niamey what they saw, what they witnessed. It was a battle that continued until the next day. So that is exactly why many people believe it was a fierce and intense fight that lasted for over 2 hours right inside the airport terminal. We are absolutely convinced of this, and I truly hope that the people of Niger are also fully convinced of the facts. The growing strength of our defense and security forces, the resources at their disposal, I have said it before, the attack was supposed to be followed by a series of other attacks. But this was not carried out because of what the enemy observed, because of what the sponsor or sponsors observed. So our defense and security forces are more ready than ever. They are prepared to defend the integrity of our territory, especially since they are convinced, and we have noticed it through the mobilization of the population around Niamey and within Niamey to support the defense and security forces. On D-Day, to use the language of the sponsors of the mercenaries, and on D+1 and D+2. Even up to the present day, we must all remember the series of aggressive actions taken against Burkina Faso. Think back to the violent attack on the Diori Hamani International Airport in Niamey, which, as I have previously stated, was supposed to be followed just like the events on July 1st, 2025 in Mali, by 7 other coordinated attacks on our sovereign territory with the ultimate goal of destabilization. We cannot forget these threats to show that we are incompetent and that the putschists cannot run this country. We willingly leave all the final conclusions and judgments to our adversary. But our significant rise in power simply cannot be compared in any way to the effectiveness of the ECOWAS standby force that we have been patiently and expectantly waiting for ever since the year 1990. 36 years later, it is still on standby. In a remarkably short period of less than 2 years, we have successfully achieved the monumental feat of establishing a dedicated security force. This organization will certainly continue to improve its operations, diligently fill existing gaps, and make all necessary strategic adjustments. Ultimately, this force will bring back a sense of security. We are firmly convinced that, God willing, a lasting and stable peace will once again prevail throughout every corner of our entire national territory, reaching from the borders to the heart of our communities. So this rise in power is not just wishful thinking, it is a reality in the Sahel, especially within the Confederation.
Thank you so much, families, for listening up to this stage. Did you listen to the amount of money that they have given to the terrorists just to claim that they were the one that did it? As if our president, our children, they don't know what is going on. And I said it before, if they didn't know what they were planning, it could have been bigger. Like by this time, we don't have Niger. We will be talking about different things altogether. But last year interview that I keep repeating myself is sitting there. He has given detailed information about what is going to happen, but many refuse to listen to what he was saying, or maybe things like those young men that thought our president are joking and they don't know what they are talking about because they are not using diplomatic terms. It could have been worse. Families, please listen to more. I'll be back.
Regarding the decree?
The general mobilization,
In general,
the decree on general mobilization, I believe I have already addressed that. We are professionals. We know the challenges we are facing. And we know the magnitude of these challenges. Since we know what we know, and we know things that many Nigerians do not know, and that is the difference. So we know the scale of the challenges, the determination of the sponsors to bring us to our knees, even if it means eliminating us physically. And I weigh my words carefully. So when we are confronted with this challenging situation, we understand and acknowledge that the days ahead will be particularly difficult, not because our defense forces and the security forces are simply not adequate or sufficient. They lack the necessary power and strength. They are far from being truly professional, and they are completely lack the essential equipment needed. No, as I have previously stated, it is going to be an extremely difficult challenge for us because we are already well aware of the specific motives and the strategic agenda of the other side. The mobilization, in general, is in line with this. The Ordinance of December 26, 2025, number 42. This specific regulation is a formal legal provision that was officially set out and established by the legislative authority under law number 2022-30, which was formally enacted on the date of December 31st in that same year. In the year 2002, specifically regarding the legislation of the Organization of National Defense, and as established in Article 43 of the Foundational Charter of Refoundation. This specific point is exactly where this national mobilization derives its fundamental essence and core strength from. The concept of general national mobilization is defined as the collective ability of a nation. To put it simply, of the Nigerian people, I'll take the example of the Nigerian people. with all its various components, the national defense and internal security forces, the public institutions, the government, and when I say the government, I mean every administrative structure, all the ministries, the diverse organizations of civil society, the large corporate companies, and even the ordinary citizens themselves. They actually have the inherent capability to transition and switch over from a time of peace to a time of war. That is what general mobilization is. This remarkable ability to switch over in a highly organized structure, with every single person knowing exactly what they have to do according to their specific professional qualifications, their unique technical skills, and their inherent abilities, allows the entire team to seamlessly take on a full-scale wartime posture whenever it becomes absolutely necessary and when it is decreed. That is the concept of general mobilization, which is fundamentally based on a certain number of essential pillars, starting specifically with the various general provisions that I have already mentioned earlier. And through the organization of this mobilization as well, through the preparation for this mobilization, through the conduct for speaking in military terms about this mobilization, and to speak in civilian terms, the implementation of this mobilization, and also to anticipatory civil society organizations, major corporations, individual citizens, and ordinary people. You must take full ownership and responsibility of this extraordinary capability to transition seamlessly from a long period of peace to a challenging time of war. That's it. General mobilization, this ability to switch over. In an organized structure, everyone knows what they have to do according to their qualifications, their skills, and their ability to adopt a wartime posture when necessary. And when it is declared, that's what general mobilization is. And it relies on a certain number of pillars. These are, first of all, the general provisions that I previously mentioned, and through the systematic organization of this mobilization as well, through the thorough preparation for this mobilization, through the conduct in military terms of this mobilization, and in civilian terms, the comprehensive implementation of this mobilization, also providing for specific penal provisions that further strengthen the overall effectiveness of this mobilization. We are now less than 10 days away from the beginning of Lent. It is a time for us to reflect on these measures and ensure that every aspect of the mobilization is handled with the utmost care and precision as we move forward into this critical period.
Yes, the month of Ramadan.
You wait until the very first day to actually start stocking up on essential supplies like sugar and sweeteners. You wait until that first day to make absolutely sure you have all your necessary supplies. You might need to check your inventory of millet for your morning porridge, the right kind of fresh coconut, and all the other little things you might have forgotten. It seems you always wait until the very first day to do all the essential stocking up and preparations that traditionally falls to the busy housewife. Tell me that's not true. You prepare yourself for a very specific goal, providing for the full 29 or 30 days of the month ahead. Fasting, the period of abstinence, goes by with fewer difficulties. That's what general mobilization is about. It is essential that all citizens, not just collectively, but also on an individual level, develop the right instinctive reflexes to move from a time of peace to a time of war. Nigerians know it's a challenge. I wouldn't call it war that has lasted for more than 30 years. I believe that if we did this, it was so that we could be even more effective, because others didn't think to do it, for reasons I won't criticize. But for us, we are aware that both the sponsors and ourselves, it's a matter of willpower. The will to submit ourselves is our will to free ourselves and remain masters of our own destiny. That's the difference. We have regained our freedom of action We must preserve this freedom of action for our dignity, our sovereignty, and for our prosperity. That's what I can say about the general mobilization.
Thank you so much, families, for listening up to this stage. Now he was asked about the jobs, opportunities, those who are working, and also how they spend the money of the country, as if there were a lot of money in the country. Oh my goodness, our president, he doesn't joke. And if you think he's looking on the screen answering those questions, no, think twice. He's not. He never do that. Just like Captain Ibrahim Traore, they don't. Everything is there properly and he's giving it out. If you are not doing your job properly, well, they will move you. Instead of paying teachers and some workers, there was one that I reacted on. They said they are not paying school teachers, but then they have money to pay for advisors. Can you remember that? Yes, there was an advisor to the president. According to another young man, they were paid certain amount, and he was not happy because they have to pay the teachers. I'm sure our president heard that one as well. So that was the question. Let's listen to everything that he said about that, including those lazy ministers that think they can be playing around and still be employed. No, not this time. Revolution is taking place. So yes, I'll be back.
Awareness-raising missions are being carried out. I believe that further details can be provided.
All right. Mr. President, it has been almost 3 years since you have presided over the destiny of Niger with the rise to power of the CNSP on July 26, 2023. Do you understand the urgent expectations of Nigerians for a clear improvement in their living conditions, breaking away from what they have experienced in the past? Indeed, Nigerians now say that we have control over our country and its vast natural resources, and they should see a positive change in their daily lives. Question, Mr. President, what is your assessment of the demands that have emerged in recent weeks regarding salary payments, the high cost of living, and the lack of sufficient financial liquidity in Niamey and within the formal national financial system?
Thank you. I'm surprised. Upon hearing this long and complex string of various questions, it is quite possible that a significant number of detailed corrections and adjustments will still need to be made. First of all, we haven't been here for 3 years. We've been here for 2 years and 6 months. A year is a year. 6 months is half a year. We've been here for 2 years and 6 months. And if we refer to the Charter of Refoundation, go ahead and take a look at the date of March 26, 2025, right? Yes, that is correct.
25.
You'll see what we've accomplished while in power. On the other hand, you said 3 years. Since when has Niger been a republic? Since December 18th, 1958. The Republic of Niger. Niger is independent. In parentheses, since when?
It was on August 3rd, 1960.
Where were all those who criticize us now during those 65 years? I'm just taking August 3rd, 1960 as a starting point. Where were they during those 65 years? We know Niger. We know the history of Niger. Whatever the history may be, whether it is the ancient Neolithic era or much more recent periods of human history, we must consider the extensive and complex history of French colonization, or even the more recent history of the period of French military occupation after August 3rd, 1960. Because we lived under that French occupation after August 3rd, 1960, a variety of additional specific details will serve to prove what I have just said. Just follow the chronology of the explanations I will give as we proceed through this discussion together. We are in a process of reclaiming our resources. That's what some people don't understand. When I hear them say, where does the money from uranium go? Where does the money from oil go? Where does the money from gold go? But when we finally arrived at our destination on the 26th day of July in the year 2023, how many grams of gold were actually stored there? We found at the Central National Treasury vaults as follows: belonging to the Nigerian state, therefore belonging to all Nigerians, 0. What can be said regarding the financial profits and revenues from the sale of uranium for the direct benefit of the people of Niger? The answer is absolutely nothing at all. At worst, surprisingly, many Nigerians have actually benefited from the presence of cancer-causing agents and widespread pollution found within their local water resources and deep underground aquifers. Furthermore, the people of Niger, specifically known as Nigerians, have also seen certain benefits arise from the ongoing environmental pollution in their region. So, this is a complex historical process that has lasted for more than 70 long years, a legacy which we have consistently strived to undo and rectify. To completely undo this, after having tirelessly fought it with the sharp weapon of human intellect, the sturdy weapon of logical reason, the practical weapon of everyday pragmatism, and the noble weapon of inherent human dignity, this is the struggle we are in. Oil. But what does oil actually bring to the people of Niger? Everything is part of this struggle, and that's what we're doing. And that's what we've never stopped telling the people of Niger. They need to understand that we are not 100% in control of our natural resources or anything else. A group of people who are not even truly free, who are not even the absolute masters of their own destiny, is what gives rise to the struggle. The most pragmatic thing is to do it. To understand that he is now master of his own destiny, that he is master of his resources. Do you think that's a struggle that can be won in 2 years, 3 years? Are all those who benefit from this windfall just going to sit idly by? Take a look at what's happening in France. You'll understand. It's true they managed to convince the Nigerians, no small feat, that our uranium is worth less than clay. That the contribution of onions, or I don't know, a few gabu leaves on top of that. Some screws to supply to Niger. But we are not naive. We know that this is just a narrative to convince Nigerians that their uranium is useless. Just look at what happened when this systematic plundering was stopped. Systematic plundering. Look at the effect it has produced in Emmanuel Macron's policy. And I partly understand him. And that's why I sympathize with what he's going through. However, it certainly would have been much wiser to finally accept the reality that all uranium resources since July 26, 2023 belong solely to the nation of Niger. And that precious uranium is now definitively and permanently under their own control. The property of the Nigerian people. A serious partner who does not ignore us, who does not come with the spirit of plundering that has always guided them, who does not come with an arrogant attitude. When it comes to the point of coming down to negotiate with us in such a narrow-minded and petty manner, that partner must clearly understand that we are always very open to discussion, as long as it is not that specific kind of negative attitude, or those restrictive criteria that are currently guiding them in this process. So we are taking ownership of our resources. We would like to express our sincere thanks and heartfelt congratulations to all the dedicated employees of Somei. This is especially significant since Cominac was effectively killed off by those same French interests when they decided that the uranium no longer held enough economic value for them, or perhaps they simply chose not to invest the necessary capital into rehabilitating the aging Cominac galleries. They simply and purely abandoned it, despite the fact that the shareholders, who are of other nationalities, had paid all the funds intended for the rehabilitation of the site. Despite this, the French refused to continue the rehabilitation of the site, leaving us with more than 600 kilometers of tunnels contaminating our groundwater. And now, I see several prominent international organizations warning us about it. It is truly us that I see these organizations warning, repeatedly telling us this. This clearly demonstrates the profound level of systemic immorality and ethical decay that drives international affairs in the world today. So, Nigerians should understand that we are not living in luxury, but the struggle we are waging is precisely to allow Nigerians to live in abundance. Currently, when it comes to food concerns, I believe we have turned our backs on them, and we have done so for good. Nigerians need to understand that other Nigerians are making sacrifices so that we can achieve these goals. This includes the defense and security forces, as well as I mentioned, the employees of SOMAI who produce this uranium. And it's also the case for those Nigerians who are aware, resilient, and know that the struggle is only just beginning. The struggle is just starting because the challenges are enormous. Those who think that what we couldn't achieve through dialogue can be obtained through a series of strikes are mistaken in their judgment. But that's not a view I share, and it's not a view that Nigerians share. When we arrived in the education and higher education sectors, we found outstanding payments from 2021, 2022, and 2023. In the education sector, for contract workers in education or health, we found 8 months of unpaid wages. We were subjected to a brutal embargo where our own funds were irregularly and illegally confiscated. This is simply because there are many loyal lackeys who are always ready and willing to carry out the specific orders of Lord Macron. Despite everything, we were resourceful. We made decisions to ensure that all development would be carried out using our own endogenous resources. Since exogenous resources are no longer or were no longer within our reach, even the endogenous resources, which were in a system we did not control, were made inaccessible to us. Despite the numerous challenges we have faced, we have successfully managed, even as I speak to you now, to reduce those outstanding financial arrears to perhaps the very end of 2025. Whether it's the students, I understand they need scholarships to survive, or the teachers who also have families to support, let them say it and let them understand. We are 27 million. Out of those 27 million, fewer than 200,000 have a monthly salary. For these 27 million citizens, it is primarily through the significant and strategic investments made by the state that they truly begin to feel the state actually exists, and that they feel the state is there specifically to improve their daily lives and make things much easier for them. So, all those other individuals as well, who have the fortunate opportunity and privilege of earning a steady monthly salary at the end of each month, should fully recognize and understand that these are indeed significant sacrifices. Enormous and difficult sacrifices are currently being made to systematically reduce the outstanding arrears that we have inherited from the past and to try to maintain a high level of consistency. As I speak to you now, the current contracts have an outstanding balance of 2.6 billion for the December payment. And for the scholarships, I believe it's 444 million for December. So we are aware, we are monitoring the situation, but they must understand that this is a time for sacrifice. Just as we made every effort to reduce the months of arrears that existed when we arrived and which were under embargo, it is not with pleasure that we are experiencing these delays in arrears. They should understand that soldiers, members of the defense and security forces, also face months of arrears, yet they sacrificed themselves for this same country. They died for this same country. What is causing this? It is the conviction that if we do not fight this battle, no one will do it for us. And what does it mean to fight? Fighting means struggle. Struggle is not something you do in a living room. The nature of struggle is deeply material. It is physical in its essence, and it is profoundly moral. It is essential for people to fully grasp and understand this reality, so that anything that happens to arrive late is not mistakenly perceived as a direct challenge or as an intentional act of protest. It is not meant in bad faith at all, but rather as a circumstantial challenge, or perhaps more accurately, as a situational challenge. That is precisely what I feel I have to say in direct response to the times for our nation. We must look forward with clarity.
Thank you so much, families, for listening to that one as well. There was a question also asked about ceremonies, how they spend money on ceremonies. We all know when they came to power, their money was seized by France and some neighboring country, even some bank that ECOWAS is in control of, seized their money. And we talk about it a lot, how the people suffered, some died because of that. So yes, for other people to be talking about how the money is spent, whereby there's no money, according to him, when they took power, there was no single gold. There was no gold that belongs to Niger. Just like Captain Ibrahim Traore said, in Burkina Faso, there was no gold reserve, and I'm sure Mali as well. When you have plenty of gold in your country and people are taking it, there was nothing there. So they have to start from scratch, and from scratch is not easy. Families, please listen, and I'll be back.
For everyone, as you just said, many of our fellow citizens believe that we need to reconsider the state's standard of living in order to make the necessary savings to adapt to the situational. In particular, people are talking about the government's vehicle fleet, the numerous ceremonies funded by the administration, and certain missions both inside and outside the country. My question is how your government is approaching this situation, Mr. President.
To provide a thorough answer to your question, I am going to exaggerate. It is quite evident that you have developed a truly impressive and extensive level of knowledge regarding the complex world of Greco-Roman mythology and its many legendary tales. Greco-Roman mythology. The ancient egg gods, the mighty sun god Apollo, the various incarnations of the all her life, she will never be able to construct a sentence on her own. From now on, she will spend the entire remainder of her long life simply repeating the very last words of someone else's finished sentence. And essentially, that is exactly what creates this strange acoustic phenomenon that we commonly call an echo. If you ever find yourself standing in vast mountainous regions, when you shout out loud, you will hear the clear reverberation bouncing back. That is the tragic and eternal fate of echo. Poor echo can only repeat what others have already said. And even when she repeats, it's not the whole thing. It's just the last words of what others say. Follow what I'm trying to say. You're talking about lifestyle, about way of life. Do we really have a way of life? When faced with all our challenges, when faced with all our commitments, do we really have a way of life, or do we just have a way of surviving? And that's what I want Nigerians to understand. We don't have a way of life. People may be used to repeating things, but you have to repeat intelligently, not just echo mindlessly. Since we arrived, so what exactly were the initial measures and steps that we took? To begin with, we established the National Council for the Safeguard of the Homeland. Nigerians can approach the Secretary General of the Ministry of Finance, whom we found in place. On the very first day that we initially met with him, he specifically reminded us all about the various financial allowances that are usually and traditionally granted in such unique circumstances to the active members of the local council. We told him, we are aware this type of intervention is based on a sense of awareness rather than being driven by a desire to plunder resources. An awareness to put an end to the plundering of our country's scarce resources. We will each remain content with our salary and our allowances in accordance with our original professional responsibilities. Because each of us already held a position of responsibility. Since we arrived, tell me, just one order, you mentioned the vehicle fleet. Tell me, has there been a single order for the vehicle fleet except for the benefit of the defense and security forces? We knew that this was not the usual practice. Successive government regimes have consistently ordered hundreds of new vehicles every single year. And I really mean every single year, hundreds of vehicles. Let them come forward and tell us all about the hundreds of vehicles we supposedly ordered for the administration or any other governmental structure. Except, as I said, for the defense and security forces. What's more, we had instructed that all rental contracts be suspended, even cancelled. We instructed that all advisors, nearly 7,000 advisors from the presidency, the prime minister's office, the assembly at the time, it's nearly 7,000 advisors. And all at the expense of national resources. We had suspended this under the current state. If you count all our advisors now, we do not even reach 200. Where we canceled, it was a total of $7,000, you know. The various different directors, go and find out more about them. We had actually found several general managers with annual salaries of 6 figures, 7.9 million per month, from France CFA. I got a prescription so that it would be reviewed to the bare minimum. He who can serve his country should serve it. Anyone who thinks he cannot serve the country with that amount of money, there are thousands of Nigerians capable of taking his place. Even better. So as not to go too far or exaggerate, in the year 2022, the presidency of the Republic Amowo, which is the nation's highest office, had an official budget of approximately 220-something billion CFA francs. Go ahead, compare with the budgets of the presidency over the past 3 years. Currently, or I should say the last 2 years, since for 2023, it's a budget law that we had already found in place. So looking back from 2024 to 2025, and now we find ourselves here in February 2026 with the new 2026 budget law. So please go ahead and check the details. We are currently standing at a total of 60 billion CFA francs for the budget allocated to the presidency of the Republic of Niger. A budget that in the year 2022 alone reached a total of 224 billion CFA francs. This figure was recorded at 164 billion CFA francs in the subsequent year of 2023. As I said, this is a law that we found in place and which had dropped to around 90. The amount was at 1 billion in the year 2025, and then it continued to decrease, falling to a total of 60 billion CFA francs in 2026. We are perfectly aware of exactly what we are doing at every step, and those people who are busy spreading these rumors should really stop acting like nothing more than hollow echoes of misinformation. The law. It is available. Take a close look to go and see what specific funds are allocated to the various administrative bodies, organizations, institutions, government ministries, and other public sectors. This is specifically regarding the upcoming regulations for the 2026 Finance Law. The largest amount, believe it or not, is reserved for national education. Not even defense, it's national education. Following that, we have the Department of National Defense. Then we move on to the Ministry of the Interior and Local Government. Finally, we look at the Ministry of Equipment, Transport and Logistics, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Higher Education, along with its various administrative departments, represents the primary focus of this fiscal plan. These institutional bodies and organizational structures are consistently allocated the single largest share of the total annual budget forecasts and financial projections. The official Ministry of National Education and the Ministry of Defense collectively account for a total of 4 times the annual financial budget of the entire presidency of the Republic. Go and see for yourself. Before we ever arrived on the scene, what exactly was the complex working relationship between the office of the presidency and its various individual ministries? So people should stop repeating things without checking. Besides, unfortunately, we have champions in this area, because even before the finance law is released, I have seen press conferences led by international experts. So we only see the facts or the results of expertise through idle gossip or slander. Nigerians should learn not to let themselves be fooled. They should learn how to interpret exactly what is happening when the finance law is officially ratified. They should take ownership of this. Finance law, study it, and see the proposals that are made, and what reality these proposals take into account. So I do not recognize myself in that. No institution, no government identifies itself with a certain lifestyle. Go and look at the ministers' salaries. I don't want to reveal it since our words carry far. Go and look at the salaries of our advisors. As for the refoundation, you'll understand that it's a pittance, even though some, by the way, I've even seen some advisors have come out thinking they were spoiled. We are not being demagogic. We are dealing with reality. We are not in the virtual, we are in pragmatism. And we are aware of the responsibilities that fall to us. From the time we arrived until today, we have not ordered any luxury vehicles to please a president, institutions, or a minister. Everything we have done has been strictly the bare minimum to enable our defense and security forces to conduct ground and air operations under better conditions. And even that with difficulty, because the global environment is challenging, not just for Niger, but for all countries in the world. All countries in the world. So that's the answer I give to ECO, whether it's ECO with just an O or ECO with an S. And let Nigerians know how to turn a deaf ear to these harbingers of doom. That's it.
Mr. President, many people are questioning the appointment of certain officials who have become known for their poor management or questionable conduct and even opposition to the reform. That's what people are commonly saying. And in the same vein, we've witnessed a certain instability in the positions of Minister of Petroleum and Director General of Customs, sectors connected to money and the business world. So the question is, what is really going on? Is it difficult to find good people to take on certain positions of responsibility in Niger?
Do you see what I just pointed out? It also comes up again in this question. Because you say one thing during the day and the opposite at night. You say one thing and then it's opposite. We appoint people who don't deserve to be appointed, and then we remove them. That's it in a nutshell. But if individuals simply continue to repeat things without critically analyzing or reflecting on what they are saying themselves, does this truly remain a significant question that should be reintroduced and discussed once more in our modern context today? Since I've already talked about the formal process of making an appointment to actually appoint someone to a position, we request the submission of detailed CVs, specifically CVs from qualified and interested Nigerians. These aren't French CVs like they used to be back in the day. In actual fact, until quite recently, the French were heavily involved in the ministries, and the French were also deeply embedded within the defense and security forces. Go check for yourself today, they're all Nigerians now. So we ask for CVs from Nigerians, depending on the positions that are currently available to be filled. Nigerians submit, let me be absolutely clear, Nigerians submit, and I say it once again, detailed CVs that are thoroughly and rigorously scrutinized. These documents are reviewed by the National Gendarmerie, by the Department of State Security, and by the Specialized Judicial Police, all of which are under extremely close and careful examination by the authorities. It is the comprehensive findings from these three distinct bodies that enable us to construct a thorough and detailed evaluation of both the intellectual faculties and the moral capacities involved. Out of all the potential candidates that are applying for this vacant position, once this specific step of the process is fully completed and all data is gathered, we move forward to make the final decision. Our primary goal is to appoint the absolute best candidate for the position, ensuring our choice is firmly based on the three comprehensive assessments we receive from the team. It is certainly not a decision that I would ever just hide away in my private office to make all by myself. Rather, it is a transparent and thorough evaluation that involves careful consideration of every single detail we have collected throughout this entire recruitment journey. It's a collective decision. We appoint people, and we maintain a vigilant watch because we have come to the realization that trust does not exclude the need for oversight. We are soldiers and we remain soldiers. We leave absolutely no room for hesitation. We leave no room for chance. We leave no room for any personal feelings. We leave no room for hesitation. In this mission, we leave no room for doubt. We leave no room for error. And we certainly leave no room for hesitation. We maintain an incredibly vigilant and constant watch. And when it comes to the critical matter of national oversight, I firmly believe the people of Niger can trust that we possess this unique and essential ability to monitor and analyze all activities with great precision. This includes not only what happens within our own borders, but also extends to everything occurring well outside our country as well. And that's what allows us, thank God, to hold on. So we carefully monitor the overall execution. Since every single person has a unique set of responsibilities, everyone has specific tasks to complete, and everyone has clear objectives to achieve. When we eventually see that the specific objectives to be achieved are not being fully met as expected, or in the worst case scenario, they are diverted from their path, but we do not make decisions out of emotion, as I said before. We take action, and as I have previously stated before, we do so with full awareness and a deep conviction that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only judge, and He judges our actions, and He judges the actions that our responsibilities entail. Please be advised that we maintain a firm policy where we will not hesitate to dismiss any individual or staff member who fails to consistently meet our rigorous professional standards or who expresses a persistent lack of satisfaction with their current position and responsibilities within this organization. It was not actually with the specific conditions, even despite having successfully passed through the initial filter, but rather with the very particular objectives that were originally set out for them at the start. And so, because we deeply understand the complexities of human nature, and we must acknowledge that absolutely no one is perfect or beyond error, I want to strongly emphasize that we maintain a rigorous system to closely monitor the execution of every single mission assigned to our leaders. And this applies regardless of the position of responsibility entrusted to Nigerians or to the individual. So, there are no professional appointments ever being made out of sympathy, no sudden or dictatorial dismissals of staff, and no presence of conflicting or grouped personal feelings. There is simply a clear and objective analysis of the facts, a cold analysis, firmly guided by a sense of pragmatism and tangible, real-world results. That is the crucial point that we must emphasize once again, to truly understand that absolutely nothing is ever left to mere chance.
Let me emphasize, this is the third Minister of Petroleum we've seen. It's the same for the Director General. What's going on?
When a Director General of Customs is appointed and it is discovered that he has strayed from the main mission, the objective and the intended outcome, we are military people. I am telling you this. We do not act out of emotion. Customs officers are part of the defense and security forces, but that doesn't give them a free pass for impunity. Stay on the straight path of safeguarding the national interest, not the interest of the President of the Republic, not the interest of this or that minister, not defending the interests of any particular group or individual. No, the national interest, the supreme national interest. When you clearly see that the sacred mission entrusted to you is no longer being respected, the vital mission to defend the sovereign interests of Niger, rest assured that there are thousands upon thousands of patriotic Nigerians waiting in the shadows. And we will not hesitate for a single moment to use every possible means at our disposal to ensure justice is served. Hold every Nigerian accountable and make them face their responsibilities. It is a credit of trust that leads to an appointment through a selection process. And it is the withdrawal of that trust that leads to resignation and the removal of that trust. Betrayed. So we can make changes. If we find it is required, we will appoint 50 ministers of petroleum and 50 directors general of customs. If it is truly necessary, we will do it. So, you must understand that it's nothing personal. It's not a matter of being sentimental. It is pure, cold pragmatism. It is entirely about achieving real results, acting in the sole and only supreme national interest of our country. That's what I keep repeating, despite your insistence. It is the national interest that guides our actions, not feelings, not familiarity. Any individual who mistakenly believes they will be protected by mere familiarity, sentiment, or simply belonging to the group has utterly and completely failed to comprehend the depth of our determination. They have not understood the monumental task of reclaiming and restoring our precious natural resources that we are currently undertaking, nor have they grasped the clear direction that led us to take back full control of our destiny. Our collective defense, our national security, and now what we hold in our hands today, that is, the absolute and sovereign freedom of our own action. There was a time in Niger when the FDS did not make decisions. It was the same situation in Mali, it was the same situation in Burkina Faso. We decided to take our destiny into our own hands. We chose to reclaim our destiny for our dignity, for our sovereignty. We will spare no effort to achieve this. This is nothing personal. That's it.
Thank you so much, families, for listening. Yes, people are expecting more from them, but they forgot the way they came into power. I said there, I'm referring to the three presidents, Captain Ibrahim Traore, General Assimi Goïta, and our president that is speaking now, General Abdourahmane Tiani. People forget and they want this to be going fast and fast and faster. Every country or each country has their own unique problem apart from the security that they need to solve. We cannot compare Burkina Faso to Niger. We cannot compare Burkina Faso to Mali or Mali to Niger or Mali to Burkina. No, they all have their individual obstacles, fortunate and misfortunate that they are facing. Together, they are facing the security and working other things together as well. But we cannot be comparing them, what they are doing and the way they are doing things. And I think some of the citizens are comparing things. So yes, this 5 hours interview has explained a lot of things that is going on, or things that they should expect. One is about general mobilization. When he was talking about general mobilization, the way he explained it a little bit, I was thinking of Lebanon. Lebanon, they are always prepared, always prepared for years and years and years, and they are used to it because they know at any time the enemy of the state can attack them. And if they don't have food, especially, they will be in problem because they need food to survive. If anything at all, they need that food. And so I hope Nigerians, Burkinabes, Malians will understand what our president is saying. Mobilization. It's not just about the military, it's about each and every one. Ordinary household, you have to get ready. Like he's saying, it's not going to be easy, but if we survive this, this will be total independence. Families, please listen to more. I'll be back.
Mr. President, we will continue this interview. After your vision for Niger, you adopted your Republic Refoundation program in the Council of Ministers. 2025 to 2029, what should we take away from this approach?
Of the military. Within the structure of the army, there exists a specific strategic level where it is entirely about meticulous planning. This planning process is fundamentally about carefully outlining the main operational guidelines for everyone to follow. Then, moving forward, there is a completely different and distinct level of operation that is focused entirely on the specific tactical execution of tasks, which is what we commonly refer to in our professional framework as the order itself of operation. This strategic operation order is meticulously structured and divided into several distinct parts. First, you must consider the surrounding environment. Then, you carefully evaluate the specific nature of the threat you are currently facing. You clearly define your primary mission, taking into full account the local population among whom you will carry out your duties. And finally, you consider the available personnel and the various technical resources you have at your disposal to successfully accomplish this mission. Beyond just the primary mission, you must also carefully consider what we often refer to as friends and neighbors. This term encompasses various other defense organizations, international security forces, and local agencies that may be actively operating alongside your team within your specific area of operations at any given time. Once you successfully complete this initial synthesis process, you effectively set what is commonly referred to as a major effect. When we speak of a major effect, to translate that into more common civilian terms, we are essentially identifying a fundamental key objective that serves as a primary anchor. This critical goal will then act as a comprehensive roadmap to guide every single aspect of the rest of the complex organizational structure that you are currently preparing to establish for the future. Have defined with your major effect complete, you will now proceed to what we commonly call the next phase, the articulation, with the subordinate units to whom you assign missions. Furthermore, every single subordinate military unit that is assigned a specific mission is also fully equipped and provided with the necessary resources and means to successfully carry out that specific mission. Finally, you issue what are called coordination instructions. These coordination instructions make it possible to take into account the other branches, notably medical services, communications, logistical support, and indeed everything else involved. And it is at this point that you can certainly say that you are mentally and intellectually prepared, to now transition forward into the hands-on practical application phase. The situation remains exactly the same. Organization that needs to be reported. Unfortunately, people tend to believe that the military, well, they're just grunts, they're just pack carriers, but they haven't understood anything. The major advances, they were made by means of structured military organization, regardless of the specific field involved, whether it is in the broad scientific and technological fields in general, medicine, weaponry, whether that involves nuclear capabilities or other conventional means, or in the very essence of organization itself. Military organization that has been dressed up in civilian clothes, like what you are wearing to manage. For those who are aware, it's the military organization that has been adapted to civilian life. I wouldn't say civilized, because people might misinterpret that. So let's say it has been adapted to do what we do in the civilian sphere. The vision, which is firmly based on 4 distinct and foundational pillars, is a comprehensive vision that clearly outlines 4 major strategic directions for the future. But it is important to note that these major directions are intended to benefit every single individual across the entire community. This is precisely what I firmly believe will happen when we collectively follow this vision, and that is it. This is the remarkable direction in which our entire nation can move forward. This is the kind of profoundly positive and transformative impact it can have for the lasting benefit and prosperity of every single citizen across Niger. So once these major strategic directions, which are what we specifically call the 4 fundamental pillars, are officially received, of course, they then need to be carefully relayed down the line, just as we consistently do within the structured military, to the subordinate levels that are structured accordingly. Here, it's the main collaborators. In the military, it's a different term. It's military terminology. So who are the collaborators? They are the various academic institutions, the national ministries, the local government bodies, and the specific administrative departments. They are the partners working together. Detailed execution of the various missions assigned to each person in charge. And this applies regardless of the position of responsibility given to Nigerians or to any individual. So it is important to understand that there are absolutely no professional appointments being made out of personal favoritism or bias, no sudden dictatorial dismissals without cause, and no opposing or grouped sentiments causing division. Instead of these chaotic elements, there is simply a very thorough, objective, and highly detailed analysis of the current situation being conducted right now. A cold analysis, firmly guided and driven by pragmatism and tangible results. That is the point to emphasize once again, to make it clear that nothing is left to chance.
I must insist, because in the case of the petroleum minister, he is our 3rd. It's the same at customs. This is the 3rd director general. What's going on?
When a director general of customs is officially appointed to their position, and it is subsequently discovered that he has deviated significantly from the path of the main mission, the primary strategic objective, and the intended outcome, we must remain as disciplined as soldiers, I tell you. We do not act out of sentiment. Customs officers are part of the defense and security forces, but that does not give them a free pass to impunity. Stay firmly committed to safeguarding the national interest, not the interest of the President of the Republic, not the interest of any particular minister, not the defense of the interests of any group or individual. No, the national interest. When you see that the mission entrusted to you is not being respected, the mission to defend the interests of Niger, be sure that there are thousands of Nigerians waiting, and we will spare no effort to hold every Nigerian accountable and make them face their responsibilities. It is a credit of trust that leads to an appointment through a filter, and it is the withdrawal of that trust that leads to resignation and the removal of that betrayed trust. so we can make changes. If we must appoint 50 different ministers of petroleum and 50 separate directors general of customs to succeed, then that is exactly what we will do. You see, this is absolutely nothing personal, and it is certainly not a matter of sentimentality. Rather, it is a matter of pure, cold pragmatism focused entirely on achieving real results. We are doing this solely and exclusively in the highest possible national interest of our country. That's what I keep repeating despite your insistence. It is the national interest that guides our actions, not feelings, not familiarity. Anyone who thinks they will be protected by familiarity, sentiment, or belonging to a group has completely misunderstood our determination, has completely misunderstood. Anyone who has not understood the reclaiming of our natural resources that we are currently undertaking has not understood the path that led us to take control again. Our defense, our security, and seeing today what we have, that is freedom of action. There was a time in Niger when the defense and security forces did not make the decisions. It was the same situation existed in Mali. It was the same situation in Burkina Faso. We have decided to take our destiny into our own hands. We have chosen to reclaim our destiny for our dignity, for our sovereignty. We will spare no effort to achieve this. This is nothing personal. That's it.
Mr. President, we will continue this interview. After your vision for Niger, you adopted your program for the refoundation of the Republic in the Council of Ministers, 2025 to 2029. What should we take away from this approach?
We are professional soldiers. Within the structure of the army, there exists a specific strategic level that is entirely focused on long-term planning. This planning phase is primarily about carefully outlining the main guidelines for success. Then, moving forward, there is another distinct level that is considered to be purely tactical in its execution, which is what we call the operations order. This operations order is broken down into several parts. You consider the environment, you consider the threat you are facing, you consider your mission, you consider the population among whom you will carry out your mission, you consider the personnel and resources you have at your disposal to accomplish it. When you are undertaking this specific mission, and you also take into careful consideration what we call friends and neighbors, which refers to the various other defense and security forces that may be actively conducting missions in your particular area of operation. When you first make this initial comprehensive assessment, you effectively set what is commonly referred to as a major effect. A major intended effect, to put it simply in civilian terms, is a fundamental key objective that will provide a clear roadmap to guide the rest of the entire organizational structure you are going to establish for this specific purpose. You have successfully defined your main effect. You will now move forward to do what we typically call the next step, articulation. You must work closely with the various subordinate units to which you assign specific tasks. Furthermore, it is essential that each subordinate unit that receives a task is also simultaneously given all the necessary means and resources required to successfully carry out that specific mission. Finally, you do what we call coordination instruction. These coordination instructions make it possible to take into account other branches, notably health, communications, logistical support, everything. And it is precisely at this specific stage of the process that you can truly say you are fully prepared from an intellectual standpoint to now transition forward into the beginning of the practical phase. This principle remains exactly the same as we proceed. Organization that needs to be reported. Unfortunately, people tend to think that the military are just grunts, just pack carriers, but they haven't understood anything. All the major advances, they have been there. These advancements were meticulously developed through the structures of military organization, no matter the specific field involved, whether it's in the broad and diverse realms of scientific research in general, medicine, weaponry, ranging from nuclear technology to conventional systems, or in the very nature of organization itself. It is this fundamental military organization that has been carefully disguised and presented in the form of civilian attire, like what you wear to manage. For those who are aware, it's the military organization that has been adapted for civilian use. I wouldn't say civilized because people might get the wrong idea and misinterpret it. So it was adapted to do what we do in the civilian sphere. So the vision, which is based on 4
pillars,
is a vision that outlines 4 major directions. But these major directions, they're meant for everyone. This is what I truly believe in my heart. If we collectively follow this ambitious vision, this is exactly where our great country can go in the future. This is the kind of profound and lasting positive effect it can have for all Nigerians across every region. So, upon receiving these important recommendations and considering our path forward, I am confident we can achieve this together. Major directions, which are what we call the 4 pillars, of course, need to be communicated, just as we do in the military, to the subordinate levels that are organized accordingly. Here, these are the main collaborators. In the military, it's a different term, it's military terminology. So, who exactly are these various collaborators? They are the academic institutions, the national ministries, the local government bodies, the specialized departments, the private companies, and of course, the individual citizens themselves. All of these groups work together closely. Ordinary citizens, we need to tell each person, this is what you need to do, and that's where the spirit of mobilization comes in a bit. This is what you are going to do, this is how you are going to do it. These are the means you need to use to do it. That is exactly what necessitates the comprehensive reorganization at the various levels of our internal collaborators, to make it entirely possible to achieve the specific points that you have just highlighted. This transition flows from the strategic long-term vision into the 2024 to 2029 refoundation program. Ultimately, that is the essence of the entire situation. Each and every structure must fully comprehend and internalize the specific mission it has been assigned, and then carry it out diligently because it is equipped with the necessary tools and financial resources. Of course, I wouldn't go so far as to say they are abundant, but they are certainly sufficient to allow it to fulfill the mission for a single primary objective: the total well-being of all Nigerians and the overarching preservation of our national interest. And in this specific approach, as I have previously stated and feel compelled to emphasize once more, if there is a vulnerable or fragile link within the structural chain that simply cannot withstand the immense strain, we must proactively replace it before the entire chain breaks apart. It is absolutely essential for the people of Niger to fully grasp and internalize this reality. And that is the comprehensive answer I have given to your question today. That is the fundamental core and guiding spirit of our National Refoundation Program, which stems from the grand vision, the 4 pillars of the vision for a better Niger.
Mr. President, the dissolution of the unions in the sector suggested that imminent reforms were on the way that would quickly change things. Then on December 12, 2025, during the judicial reopening, you delivered a strong message regarding your vision for justice and held all stakeholders accountable, especially the magistrates. Where do we stand today, and what are the prospects in this important sector of our lives?
Justice cannot be delayed or sick. Is justice physical? No. Is it material?
No.
It is not material. So how can it be sick? Is it human?
Not that either.
It is the people responsible for administering justice who are sick. It is not justice itself. We have laws. They have been revised many times, as I often say, revised, and revised again. No.
Thank you so much, families, for listening up to this stage. I will not disturb you. Whatever you have taken from this interview, please leave comment what you understand about this interview. If you have taken anything at all and it's not a waste of your 2 hours, please leave comment. Let us learn or read from you and share it if possible. Please give it thumbs up so a lot of people will know what is going on, because there's a lot of misinformation going around. People are saying they are my crazy people, and people that do not know the history of these countries. I don't know. I'm learning, and so I cannot judge. I can judge from what I'm seeing now and compare it to other countries like I just did. Apart from that, I can't say anymore. What they gave me is what I will talk about. So yes, congratulations to our president. May God give them all long life. Um, he has everything, all the history in his mind. It's amazing how he does it. I don't know. The date, the time, the places, and everything. Oh my goodness. And they are telling them not to talk, not to say anything, to behave certain way. I mean, those three guys that we listen to, they are not the only people talking like that. They are just the small that can't hold it in. But you can just imagine a lot of people behind the scene, what they are saying about this our leaders. They have the evidence, otherwise they will not come out to talk. This is not the first time, this is not the last time they will talk about what is going on. And for our neighboring country that are enabling this to continue, for how long? For how long should we continue this cycle of life? For how long? At least if you are, excuse my word, dying tomorrow or today, what about the future children that you are going to leave behind? The monies that you are banking, Switzerland, France, UK, America, and the rest, they are benefiting other people, not your country. Good leaders should look after their people first before any other person. And so I hope Nigerians will tackle their belt, including Burkina Faso, Malians, and any other country. I mean, I was asking of Chad. Thank you, my brother or my sister, who has advised me on the spelling of Chad, sometimes how they spell it. When I did that, I found some things, but this video is long and it's time taking. Let me finish and I'll go back to Chad. And so I've linked one video under the community about Chad in France. It seems like Chad is running to France once again. You have to be, you have to be strong. You have to be strong in your conviction to be able to do what you set to do. Otherwise, you'll be back to zero. And I wish our president, our three heroes, would not go back to zero by the grace of God. That's what I'm wishing for, because we are all looking up to them to set the path and set it right. So this foundation will be a new foundation, a new Africa for the next generations to come, that will not go to different countries begging for food and money and shelter and job. That's what we are wishing for them, and we want it to come true at all costs. So yes, be the sacrifice to clear this path for Africa, and do it well. Prepare yourself for what is to come, because they will definitely come. They said it before and they are doing it. Their art is showing that they will do it again. So prepare. Listen to your leaders and prepare. I will leave you here, families. Credit to RTN for sharing this with us. And our president, once again, thank you. The interviewer, thank you for your time. I can imagine how painful it is to sit there for all these hours. For you to share 5 hours, I can imagine it's 8 hours. Anyway, those behind the scene, the cameramen and everyone, thank you so much. The editing staff, thank you for the pain taking time that you used to share this video with us. I haven't taken your time for granted. I'll be back, families, with part 2 and part 3. 2 hours, 2 hours, and 1 hour. If that's okay with you, let me know. I will see you soon. Have a wonderful day. My members, thank you so much. My returning families, thank you. Those who are passing by, thank you so much. This video, I've translated it before sharing it with you. If you like something like this, please subscribe to join us. That's all that I do here. Rare news from the AES, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso. That's what I do here. So stay with us. Thank you for your time and your understanding. I will see you in my next video. God bless you. Bye bye.